Welcome to Nuts at Night, episode number 20. Steve D'Amico is with us today. Hello, Steve.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And this is episode number 20. Yeah, you said that already. Okay, Nuts at Night is a show where we talk a little bit about tech, mainly about tech, and then just kind of whatever else happened to us throughout the week that we might think is interesting to you guys. And that's what it's going to do. It's like Podnutz Light. It's probably would be an adequate name for it. Anyway, let's start with Steve. Steve, what do you got for us this week?
Our last conversation, our last show, I was talking about my I was talking about a friend of mine who showed me a camera. He's a parts guy, and he had a he's like, oh, you want to see something? Because I was doing some work for him, and I'm like, all right, let me see. And he pulls out this camera. He starts taking like close up pictures with this camera. All right. And I think it was a Canon G11. It was kind of a newer camera. Right. And it's just taking these amazingly awesome pictures up close of his parts. I mean, he was getting.
I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, he was taking pictures of the writing on Intel CPUs, like it was clear as day. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Everything was so crystal clear and so big and giant and jumbo. And he's, pretty much putting the glass of his camera right up to these parts and taking these pictures. And I was dying for that because I've been struggling with taking my pictures of parts myself.
I think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
And then you told me, you have a camera, you can do it. And I was just like, no. And then you're like, yes, it's a little flower thing. Look for it. And I was like, and then I felt like my mom with a computer, because that's what I'm like. I'm like that with cameras, you know. Yeah. So I tried it, and it sure enough, my camera doesn't. Not only does it have that feature, it has a super version of that feature. And it does even better than his. I think. When
you showed me your camera on your webcam, I said that thing could take macro pictures, and that's what you're talking about with the flower button. That's the macro. Feature.
Macro. Yeah, and I didn't know what macro meant. so clueless. I should just take 5 minutes and do a little research before I start opening my mouth.
So that worked, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just actually sat down and played with it, and and then I was blown away what I can do with this thing. Huh. Yeah, so I felt kind of silly.
All right, well at least you figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's good that you got your camera working. Have you been taking any eBay photos with it, Steve? With the macro lens?
No, I haven't. There's just been a bunch of test photos. Okay.
All right, well, let me talk about one thing here. iTunes, right? I wanted to watch a movie on iTunes. Rented a movie on iTunes. And I had... Okay, this kind of ties in with the other thing I want to talk about. Let me talk about this first. The Acer Net Top I had, it's... can't remember the exact name of it. It's called the Acer something Net Top. And I was going to use it as a media center PC, and we talked about this last show, but it has NVIDIA Ion graphics. And the problem with that is, with NVIDIA Ion graphics, Adobe doesn't have graphic acceleration or flash acceleration for that yet. So if I wanted to watch like Hulu videos or anything like that, it just came out all choppy. Any flash video I put on came out all choppy when I went full screen with that. So I knew that Adobe was going to be coming out with something soon to handle it and do a fix for that. And there's a beta version coming out, but I said, okay. So I said, okay, I'll wait for that to come out. I'll wait for Adobe Flash to come out so I could have that. So I didn't return that thing. I was going to return the Acer Net Top, but I didn't because I knew the flash acceleration was coming out in a month or so. So I said, well, at least I could load iTunes on it and watch an iTunes movie. So I load iTunes on the thing because it has a 160 gigabyte hard drive. It has like a gigabit Ethernet port, so it's got some good stuff. And I loaded iTunes up, and then I rented a movie. I don't even think it was HD, the movie, and it was all choppy. The movie was all choppy, and that doesn't even use Flash. I don't think on iTunes. It uses like QuickTime encoding or something. So I said this thing's going back. So I took it back, or I packed it up to take it back, and I said, well, I rented this movie. I have 24 hours to watch this movie. I'm going to watch it on another computer. So I opened up my MacBook Pro, opened up iTunes, downloaded the movie that I rented, because on my iTunes account, it recognized that I rented a movie. And so I'm like, I paid $4 for it. I want to watch it. So I loaded it all up. I go to play it, and I get an error that says, you cannot play this movie because it's authorized to play on another computer. And it was because it was all when I ran it on the Acer, it became authorized to play there, and I couldn't play it on my MacBook Pro. So I'm like, well, this is kind of silly. I mean, I rented it. I'm not watching it on one. I'm going to call Apple and they could just switch it, right? So I call Apple and I told them the whole situation. I rented a movie. It wouldn't play on one computer. I want to play it on another one. And the guy goes, well, yeah, you can't do that because when a movie comes down, it's only authorized to play on one computer. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. But, I rented it and I'm not using it on the other computer. So can we just switch it over to this one? Sorry, sir. Wait, no. One guy didn't know what he was talking about. So I got on with another guy. He says, okay, what you have to do is you go to apple.com/support, and took me through this whole thing. He's like, now go to the iTunes section, and then there was a little form, a little email form. He goes, you fill out that email form, and you send it, and you tell them what your problem is, and within 6 to 24 hours, you get your response. And I'm like, I rented this movie. I only have 24 hours to watch it. I'm like, I'm not going to watch 6 hours. I want to watch this movie now. Well, sir, iTunes, you can't call the iTunes people because blah, 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 blah. And he kept going on. I'm like, well, what would you do if you were me, right? Because I want to watch this movie now. You know more about Apple than I do. What would you do to watch this movie? Well, sir, I would do what I told you and fill out that email form. And he told me that about 3 more times, and I go, okay, look, I'm going to watch this movie tonight, so put me on the phone with somebody who can make that happen. So, okay, sir, hold on 1 second. So he gets on the phone. He's like, okay, I got in touch with the iTunes people. Can you hold on for another few minutes? I waited for another few minutes. Boom. He says, okay, re-download the movie. Everything was fine. So, moral of the story, never buy what these people, when you call for support or whatever, and they tell you something that you kind of know is not really true or can be fixed, and they're trying to tell you you have to go through the proper channels, just be like persistent and you will prevail. And you don't have to be a jerk about it. Like I actually became a jerk a little late in the phone call just to get it going. But you don't have to be a jerk about it. But you can get it done, is what I'm saying. And if they say it can't be done, and to you it seems like it logically can be done, then it probably can be done. If you push hard enough, you can get it done. So I got my movie, and it actually took me about 45 minutes of fighting with Apple to get it, but I did get it. So one strike for Apple, and moral of the story, just be persistent in that kind of thing. Don't back down. Don't buy what they say. Yeah,
absolutely. I can't believe they didn't at least give you a refund. Like, what's their policy if there's a technical problem? I mean,
well, he was going to. I think if I did submit that email, I think iTunes might have extended the time that I could watch it. They wouldn't hold me to that 24-hour limit. But I just wanted it switched over. Just reauthorize it on my MacBook Pro. How hard is that? That's what I wanted, and they did it eventually, but they had to be a little whiny about it.
That's one thing I've never really gotten into is the renting movies thing. It was all about a million years ago. I used to rent movies like everybody else at like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video and stuff. I've never actually really rented a movie. I've never